Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got an early impression video on a house that I absolutely love, and it's the house of Bortnikoff. And Bortnikoff I put very high on my favorite house list, if you will. They're a house that I really respect, and Dmitry Bortnikoff I think really has done some amazing work. And I think he's somebody who has really improved his craft as well. He's somebody who I think really spent the time and energy and focus. And apparently he was an architect, or he studied architecture, I would say, along with perfumery. So designing things and trying to get the exact details right were very important to him. And today we're going to talk about one of his discontinued fragrances. And first of all, I have to give a special shout out to my good friend Eddie of senatorial rank at Channel Ram. Eddie hooked me up with this beautiful decant of this fragrance, Bonheur. I'm going to call it Bonheur because Bonheur doesn't sound right. So we're going to say this is Bonheur. And Bonheur is a discontinued Bortnikoff. And it came out in 2018. And I've been actually wearing this as my scent of the day. So it's been my scent of the day. I've kind of lived in it. And you can see I just did a fresh spray. Look at this. Look at the sheen that it leaves. That's the kind of scent that this is. And the juice color should also kind of give you an idea. And it's a fragrance that it's unfortunate that it's discontinued because I wish more people got a chance to experience it. However, I will say that this is one that I would not run out and just go buy a full bottle of. I'm very blessed to have got to try it and put it in the scent library up here. But I don't think even if it was available right now, this is not one of those where it's like, oh God, it's discontinued, run out and go grab a bottle. No, absolutely not. It's a scent that is spicy and resinous, but very interestingly, Bortnikoff is known for distilling very expensive oud, and he was one half of Feel Oud, the other half being Russian Adam in the Arise La Dorée brand. And in this fragrance, you'll notice that there's no oud. There is no amber, and there's no real musk. And I just actually did a fragrance review of an Arise La Dorée that was called Indalis. And Indalis was the very first Arise La Dorée creation to have no amber, no oud, and no real musk, as basically these houses are kind of known for. So this fragrance, interestingly enough, it opens up with this kind of spicy, resinous hit, if you will. And the first thing you'll notice right out of the gate is the spices. The spices are kind of the star of the show for the first 5 or 10 minutes. And then slowly what ends up happening is this Dmitry Bortnikoff floral bouquet that he has perfected over the years begins to come to the forefront slowly but surely. And you can actually tell, I think, that this is one of his earlier works. I don't think this is one of his best works. I heard some people say it's one of his best works of all time. I completely disagree. I think you can kind of tell this is one of his earlier works. And yet, even though this is one of his earlier creations, there is still this infatuation with me and the way that he does the floral part of the fragrance. And the florals here are all are exactly in the kind of they're exactly in the kind of mold that you would expect from a Bortnikoff fragrance. And so what I mean by that is you find a lot of these exotic florals that you just usually don't see very often in modern perfumery. You find frangipani, you find tagetes, which is another name for marigold. You find champaka flower. The marigold or the tagetes, if you will, remind me a little bit of a fragrance from the house of Mr. Oz. If you guys know Mr. Oz's house, he has this house called Motif Olfactif, and he did one that was a Chypre, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's a Chypre Murmur Chypre is what it was called, and that used a very prominent taguette note in the top. And that is the very first thing that my mind went through when I started to smell this taguette note. I think it's actually pronounced, someone told me it's supposed to be pronounced tagetes, I believe. I believe the G is pronounced like a J, tagetes. So you'll have to excuse my Texan pronunciation, but let's just call it marigold for fun. So that marigold note will definitely remind you of Murmur Chypre if you've ever smelled it from Motif Olfactif. And the floral part of this fragrance really kind of starts to take over, and I think that it's one of the highlights of this fragrance, but this is not a floral fragrance. That's the thing, is I would consider it more of a spicy, resinous creation, because I think the highlight of the fragrance is actually the mid and the base with the myrrh and the ambergris, the real ambergris, and the labdanum and the vetiver, which smells very much like ruchas. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as the review goes on. But this floral bouquet has really kind of become prominent in Bortnikoff style. And what I feel as I'm wearing Bonheur is that, you know, you get this creamy, succulent floral that feels almost tropical. The Frangipani gives it this tropical feel. I always say Frangipani reminds me of a tropical vibe. And it does here as well. There's this tropical feel to the florals. It almost feels very exotic, but it also feels very creamy. And you can see what's very interesting about this creation to me, because I kind of approached Bortnikoff in reverse. The first ones that I ever smelled were, you know, Oud Maximus and Oud Monarch and Lao Oud. And then now I'm kind of going back in time. Instead of, some of you probably smelled something like this from 2018, excuse me, first. And then they smelled some of the other ones later on, Lao Oud and all this other stuff, Sayat Nova and stuff like that. And so Bonheur for me is, it's almost like going into a time machine and getting to see Bortnikoff's early work after experiencing what it turned into. And the reason I mention that is you can kind of see the beginnings of the foundation of the DNA of the House of Bortnikoff and what Dmitri really set out. And what I mean by that is that top with that spicy cardamom, almost like, it almost feels like a Bortnikoff patent at this point, you know, like a copyright. The way he uses the cardamom in the top here, he will use over and over and over again in future Bortnikoff creations. The way that floral, exotic floral bit, very exotic and very creamy and tropical and just so Bortnikoff, you know, it's here as well. So it's almost like this Back to the Future type thing for me, where I'm getting to experience his early work after kind of knowing what he ended up turning into, which is a pleasure. It's a joy to get to experience the work of the three big, I'm going to put the three big indie houses in one lump. Bortnikoff, Aries Ladore, and Ensar Oud. Those three, it's been a real pleasure to get to know their work. And Bortnikoff, apparently when this came out, made a big deal about this being kind of like all natural perfumery. I think he's kind of moved away from that, but I saw an early review on YouTube and they read off a script that he had given, you know, with the free sample for someone to test or something. And it was like, you know, it was like, you know, 90% naturals or something like that. He was really touting how much natural ingredients this fragrance uses compared to the mainstream. And that very well may be true. It smells very natural. It smells very natural, but let me go through the entire fragrance and I'll kind of give you my pros and cons with the perfume. So first of all, once you get past that heart, you get instantly within the first 10 minutes, you'll see everything I've talked about so far. You'll see the cardamom, that trademarked, copyrighted Bortnikoff spice that hits you in the beginning. And the spice kind of does this over time. It just slowly kind of dissipates. The very beginning is very strong with the spice. And then it slowly starts to dissipate, but it also kind of changes over time, because what comes to the forefront is probably my favorite note in this fragrance. And just the way that it's executed in here, it's beautiful. It's myrrh. And the note of myrrh is, well, a couple resins come to the forefront, labdanum and myrrh. Labdanum ends up coming further into the dry down, at least on skin. I watched a review where someone said it acts differently on, you know, the card and in clothes and stuff like that. Although with this juice, I don't know if I would spray it on clothes. But, you know, the way that it acts on my skin is that the myrrh ends up coming to the forefront first, okay? And the myrrh is almost like this beautiful gum. It's almost like this beautiful gum resin, this medicinal, it just kind of, like, imagine you're pouring like thick cough syrup over, in a cup or something, and you then pour it out of the cup and it just kind of sticks to the side. That's the feeling of the myrrh in here, and that's exactly how it should be for me. So along with the floral genius of Dmitry Bortnikoff, you get this beautiful, warm, medicinal vibe from the resins. And you get the prominent spices. Now, the spice begins to change, interestingly enough, because what ends up happening is the cardamom, of course, slowly begins its descent. And in its place, you get a combination which puts some people off. Luckily, it did not put me off, but it does put some people off. And that is the note of clove. Clove can be a very, a note that is, it kind of divides people. Half the people really love it, and half the people hate it. Luckily, I'm kind of, sometimes I love clove, sometimes I don't. I never hate it, and many times more than hate, I'll end up loving it. And so here, it doesn't bother me one bit. I love the way that the clove and the nutmeg is kind of combined, and those two spices begin to emerge and rise with the myrrh, okay? So you end up getting this really resinous, medicinal, beautiful, warm, gummy myrrh that comes to the forefront. And it's beautiful. I love the note of myrrh. I love myrrh in any of its variations. Sweet myrrh, regular myrrh, unsweet myrrh, you name it. I love it. Love the way that myrrh is used in fragrances like YSL's Opium for women. The Secret de Parfum is I think a reference myrrh fragrance for me. And so, the opening, you get that prominent spice with the florals, and then slowly but surely, it sort of gives way to the florals and the resins. And that's kind of the meat of the fragrance, if you will. The 10 minutes, the opening has this fresh spice that might put some people off, If you're somebody that does this, and this is a mistake, by the way, but if you're someone that goes, psh, oh, hate it, no, not for me, no, you're going to miss out on the beauty of this fragrance, because there is beauty in this fragrance, absolutely. But sometimes you have to kind of give it time to develop, right? And even though it isn't listed, I get a lot of incense that kind of rises with the myrrh. It almost feels like this incensey myrrh to me. There's a violet note as well in the heart, and there's 3 or 4 other notes that come to play in the heart that make a big difference in the fragrance. Number 1 is ambergris, and the ambergris here feels very natural, beautiful ambergris note. And rising in the heart, it reminds me actually a little bit, interestingly enough, I just thought about this, but it reminds me of the way that the ambergris is done in something like Amber Rousse. So Amber Rousse, that ambergris note, hits you pretty early on, but here it mixes with the note of cumin. And the ambergris kind of comes up with the cumin and joins all the other notes in Amber Rousse. And in Bonheur, the ambergris ends up mixing not with the cumin, but the clove and the nutmeg, okay? So that's kind of the trio that then kind of joins together. Sparkling ambergris, it adds this extra dimension. Ambergris and iris are 2 notes that really make fragrances 3D in my head. Like you can walk inside of them, and that's exactly what it does here. But the resinous gumminess of the myrrh, never really goes away. So imagine you're looking at like a window, okay? And you can see this curtain over the window, and it's definitely a curtain, and it's closed. However, the curtain is not so thick that you can't see through it. But it's also not completely see-through. It blocks out some of the light, but you can still kind of see through the curtain to look out the window, but it's somewhat restricted, okay? That's the way that the myrrh feels with the other notes. You can see through it, but just barely. That's kind of how the myrrh and the resins come across. They coat the fragrance. It's a really good word for it, coating the side of the cup, coating the window. You know, that's the way that the myrrh feels in the perfume. And later on, it's the labdanum that will come to the forefront as you really get to the dry down. It's the labdanum that'll come to the forefront, and then that labdanum makes it feel almost, it makes the fragrance turn even more smoky. So I mentioned myrrh and incense in the heart, and with the labdanum coming to the forefront, it makes it feel even more smoky. Like it just, the labdanum in here gives off, instead of this extremely leathery vibe, which there is a little touch of the leather from the labdanum, but not much. I heard some people compare this to leather perfumes and stuff like that. I don't think this is a leather fragrance at all to me. I get much more of the smoky aspects from the labdanum, in my opinion, and on my skin. And remember, everyone's skin acts differently, okay? And the other thing is, you know, the green aspects of the dry down. So this fragrance does change a little bit as time goes on. It's not such a shapeshifter that it turns into a completely different fragrance, but it does change. And as it dries down, you'll smell more and more of that smoky labdanum, but you'll also smell more and more of what smells like wood. Somebody said some type of cedar wood. I've heard names thrown out like Atlas cedar. I don't know the specific types of cedar. I'm not going to even try to guess, but let's just say some sort of cedar wood with vetiver. And the vetiver will remind you of something like the vetiver you smell in Ruchas, okay? And lots of oak moss. The oak moss is very, it almost smells like oak moss absolute in some form. It's very deep and dense and rich and very long lasting, and it gives the fragrance that texture. So not only is the fragrance 3D, where you can walk into it, but it also has that texture. So you can tell I like the fragrance. However, do I love it? No, I don't. I don't love the fragrance, mostly because I am afflicted with the same disease that Russian Adam has, in that we always want more, right? When it comes to animalics and oud and stuff like that. That's me. And I always want more. And, you know, this doesn't provide me that. I really wish this composition had some of Bortnikoff's oud in here. You know, something in the realm of Oud Maximus or Oud Monarch. You know, you've got Oud Maximus, which is kind of like the out and out, just typical DNA of an oud fragrance, right? And then you've got Oud Monarch, which is the chocolate oud. This could have easily been the floral oud. Easily. And it would have been absolutely brilliant. But it's missing something to me. Now, if you don't suffer from the same affliction as me, where you always want more animalics, you know, I smelled Inverno Russo by Russian Adam just the other day. Talked a little bit about it on a video I did recently, and I mentioned that he told me that he used the musk pod skins to make that musk feel more leathery, and I was just like almost drooling because of just how animalic and leathery it felt. I absolutely loved the musk in that. That's the kind of thing that really, you know, touches my heart. That's the kind of thing that I want to wear. I love those animalic fragrances. This is missing that touch, and because of that, that's why I say it's one that I really have enjoyed sampling and getting to know, and I can say I smelled it now, but this is not something, it's not like I'm going to go hunt down a vintage bottle that's 5 times the price of what it sold for originally or anything like that. This is basically summed up as a spicy, resinous floral, exotic, slightly tropical floral. The resin, the myrrh in here is beautiful, though, to be fair. It is absolutely stunning. The labdanum's beautiful. There is a touch of vanilla, and the vanilla adds a little bit of sweetness, too. I forgot to mention, there is a little bit of sweetness that the vanilla gives you, but it never feels too sweet. You know, it just kind of, it just kind of keeps everything fluffy and easy to wear. You know what I mean? The vanilla just keeps everything from, it keeps it not mass appealing, but it just makes it a little bit easier to wear. So So that's kind of my review, just an initial impression, just a couple thoughts that kind of came to my mind on Bortnikoff Bonheur while I've been wearing it. Again, very special shout out to Eddie. Also, I should mention, if you've stuck around this far, I am going to do a live stream today. And in that live stream, we are going to do a massive unboxing. Now, this unboxing is going to be special because I did not pay for this. This is sent to me very kindly by a friend. We're going to call him a perfume god person. He doesn't want to be named right now, but basically he is an insider of sorts. And he has access to these Serge Lutens. So it's going to be a Serge Luton unboxing. And I'm very excited to get a chance to see what he sent me. There's some special stuff in here. And just do the live and interact with you guys. If you can make it, it would be great. So I hope everyone has had a great day. Cheers. And hopefully see you soon. Bye, guys.